World War I had a devastating impact on Russia. Millions of casualties, food shortages, and economic instability fueled widespread discontent with the Tsarist regime. Tsar Nicholas II's autocratic rule and his handling of the war proved disastrous. The February Revolution of 1917 saw the Tsar overthrown. This revolution was driven by popular uprisings and mutinies among the exhausted troops. A provisional government was established aiming for a democratic Russia. However, it faced immediate challenges, inheriting the ongoing war and a nation in turmoil. In April 1917, Vladimir Lenin, leader of the Bolshevik Party, returned to Russia from exile. Lenin was a charismatic revolutionary. He saw an opportunity to seize power. The Bolsheviks, a radical socialist party, gained influence by promising peace, land, and bread to the war-weary population. They capitalized on the provisional government's weaknesses. In October 1917, the Bolsheviks, led by Lenin and Leon Trotsky, staged a coup. This event, known as the October Revolution, overthrew the provisional government. The Bolsheviks established themselves as the ruling party. They promised a socialist utopia and an end to the war. The October Revolution, a pivotal moment in Russian history, triggered a brutal and far-reaching civil war that would shape the future of the nation. From 1918 to 1922, the Bolshevik Red Army, under the strategic leadership of Leon Trotsky, engaged in fierce battles against the loosely allied White Army, which was composed of various factions with differing ideologies and goals. This opposition represented a diverse mix of monarchists, liberals, and other socialist groups who were united only in their opposition to Bolshevik rule. Each faction had its own vision for Russia's future, leading to a fragmented and often disorganized resistance. The Civil War was a complex and bloody conflict, marked by brutal battles, shifting alliances, and widespread devastation. It ravaged the already war-torn nation, leaving deep scars on the Russian landscape and its people. The relentless fighting and destruction took a heavy toll on towns and villages across Russia. Despite the chaos, the Bolsheviks ultimately triumphed, consolidating their power and paving the way for a new era. Their victory was due in part to their superior organization, ruthless tactics, and the significant divisions among their opponents. The White Army's lack of unity and coherent strategy played into the hands of the Bolsheviks. In 1922, after years of conflict and upheaval, the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics, or USSR, was officially established. This marked the beginning of a new chapter in Russian history. This new nation encompassed much of the former Russian Empire, bringing together a diverse array of ethnic groups and regions under a single socialist government. The formation of the USSR was a significant moment, symbolizing the Bolsheviks' ultimate success in forging a new union from the remnants of the old empire. The years following the Civil War were a period of immense hardship for Russia. The economy was in shambles. Lenin, a pragmatist despite his revolutionary ideals, realized that a completely socialist economy was not immediately feasible. In 1921, he introduced the New Economic Policy, or NEP. This policy allowed for limited private enterprise and market mechanisms. The NEP aimed to revive the devastated economy. It permitted small-scale private trade and allowed peasants to sell surplus produce. It was a strategic retreat from full-scale socialism. This pragmatic approach helped to stabilize the economy and improve the desperate living conditions. Section 5. Stalin's iron grip, industrialization, collectivization, and terror. After Lenin's death in 1924, a power struggle ensued within the Communist Party. Joseph Stalin, a ruthless and ambitious figure, outmaneuvered his rivals, including Trotsky. Stalin consolidated his power. He eliminated opposition through purges and propaganda. He established a totalitarian state with himself at its helm. Stalin embarked on a program of rapid industrialization and forced collectivization of agriculture. The 5-year plans, starting in 1928, aimed to transform the Soviet Union into an industrial powerhouse. These plans emphasized heavy industry and military production. To finance this rapid industrialization, Stalin implemented collectivized agriculture. Section 6. The Great Patriotic War, the Soviet Union in World War II. This chapter delves into the pivotal role the Soviet Union played during the Second World War, a period marked by immense struggle and sacrifice. In 1939, the Nazi-Soviet pact shocked the world. This non-aggression treaty between two ideologically opposed regimes was unexpected and sent ripples through the global political landscape. This pact included a secret protocol dividing Eastern Europe between Germany and the Soviet Union. It was a strategic move, allowing both powers to expand their territories without immediate conflict. The pact bought Stalin time, but proved short-lived. Stalin used this period to strengthen the Soviet military, anticipating future conflicts. In 1941, Nazi Germany broke the pact and invaded the Soviet Union. Operation Barbarossa, as it was called, was the largest military invasion in history. The German invasion marked the beginning of the Great Patriotic War for the Soviet people. This term encapsulates the immense national effort to repel the invaders. The initial German advance was swift and brutal. The Wehrmacht's blitzkrieg tactics overwhelmed Soviet defenses, leading to significant territorial losses. The Soviets, caught off guard, suffered immense losses. Entire divisions were encircled and destroyed, and cities fell under German control. However, the Red Army and the Soviet people rallied. Despite the initial setbacks, they began to regroup and reorganize their defenses. They mounted a fierce resistance, enduring incredible hardships. The Soviet Union's resilience and determination would eventually turn the tide of the war, leading to the eventual defeat of Nazi Germany. Section 7. The Cold War, a global struggle for dominance. The aftermath of World War II saw the emergence of two superpowers, the United States and the Soviet Union. Their rivalry, rooted in ideological differences and geopolitical ambitions, defined the Cold War era. This rivalry lasted for decades. It shaped international relations. The Cold War was marked by an arms race, proxy wars, and ideological conflict. Both sides possessed nuclear weapons. This created a constant threat of global annihilation. The space race became a symbolic battleground. The Soviets achieved early victories with the launch of Sputnik and Yuri Gagarin's spaceflight. Section 8. Stagnation and Crisis, Seeds of Discontent in the Soviet System. By the 1970s, the Soviet economy began to stagnate. The centralized planning system, once a source of strength, became increasingly inefficient. Bureaucracy, corruption, and a lack of innovation hampered growth. Despite its military might, the Soviet Union faced growing economic problems. Living standards for ordinary citizens lagged behind the West. There were chronic shortages of consumer goods. The Soviet system, based on repression and control, faced growing dissent. Dissidents, intellectuals, and ordinary citizens began to criticize the system. They called for greater freedom and reform. Section 9. Gorbachevs Reforms, Perestroika and Glasnost. In 1985, Mikhail Gorbachev became General Secretary of the Communist Party. He was relatively young and represented a break from the old guard. Gorbachev inherited a stagnant economy and a politically repressive system. He recognized the need for radical change. Gorbachev introduced two key reforms, Perestroika and Glasnost. Perestroika aimed to restructure the Soviet economy. It introduced some market-oriented reforms. Glasnost sought to increase openness and transparency. It relaxed censorship and encouraged public debate. Section 10. The Collapse, the Soviet Union's Final Days. Gorbachev's reforms, while well-intentioned, had unintended consequences. Glasnost unleashed long-suppressed nationalist sentiments. This led to calls for independence in the Soviet republics. The Soviet Union, once a monolith, began to fracture along ethnic and national lines. In 1991, a group of hardline communists attempted a coup to oust Gorbachev. The coup failed due to popular resistance. This event further weakened the central government. Following the failed coup, the Soviet republics one by one declared their independence. Section 11. Legacy of a Superpower, the Soviet Union in Historical Perspective. The Soviet Union, officially known as the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics, USSR, was a federal socialist state in northern Eurasia that existed from 1922 to 1991. The Soviet Union formally dissolved on December 26, 1991. This momentous event marked the end of an era, bringing to a close nearly 70 years of Soviet rule. This marked the end of an empire and the close of the Cold War. The Cold War, a period of geopolitical tension between the Soviet Union and the United States, had dominated global politics for decades. The collapse of the Soviet Union had profound global implications. It led to the emergence of 15 independent republics and significantly altered the political landscape of the world. It ushered in a new world order. The dissolution of the Soviet Union shifted the balance of power, leading to the United States becoming the world's sole superpower. The legacy of the Soviet Union remains complex and contested. While some view it as a period of progress and modernization, others remember it for its authoritarian regime and human rights abuses. It was a totalitarian state responsible for immense human suffering. The regime's policies led to widespread repression, forced labor camps, and the persecution of political dissidents. Yet, it also played a pivotal role in defeating Nazi Germany. The Soviet Union's contribution to the Allied victory in World War II was significant, with the Red Army bearing the brunt of the fighting on the Eastern Front. It achieved significant social and technological advancements. The Soviet Union was a pioneer in space exploration, launching the first artificial satellite, Sputnik, and sending the first human, Yuri Gagarin, into space. Understanding the Soviet Union, its rise and fall, is crucial for comprehending the complexities of the 20th century. Its history offers valuable lessons on the impacts of ideology, governance, and international relations.